Hey, my name is Karen Fisher Doyle. I have been a nurse for 27 years and most recently a COVID-19 frontline nurse with the first acute official COVID-19 unit at Rush Medical Center in downtown Chicago. I became a COVID-19 nurse on March 11th, 2020. Prior to that, I was an orthopedic nurse for a good part of my career. Basically, one of the hardest things I've ever had to face in my entire career. This pandemic has been like nothing else I've ever experienced. I felt like I had to go to war, that I was an 18-year-old getting drafted into a situation that I didn't want to be a part of. That was the beginning. Now, 8 weeks in, I have a different outlook. I am completely supported by my team. I've been passionately engaged, and I feel like it's changed my life to look outside of myself, look at a box that's, way bigger than the little area I had at home with my own family and friends. Yes, in the beginning, I cried a lot, and I still don't sleep, but because we have learned how to be organized and accept these patients and help these patients who have been hospitalized without their families present. And their interactions with a nurse who's completely covered from head to toe in a bonnet to goggles, face shield, N95, surgical mask over that, blue gown, gloves, booties over our shoes. You can't see who we are. And it's hard to even imagine that there's a human under there. But with all that said, we have been at our patients' sides as they fever. High fevers, some fever high, some fever low. But we've had fevers up to 104, 105. Most of the time they fever around 102, and occasionally some don't have any fevers at all. What they all do have is viral pneumonia related to COVID-19 if you're inpatient and admitted. In the beginning, we had many homeless, many people coming out of the prisons. That was our first wave. And a lot of just the community, all walks, young through old. Didn't matter what age, what the common factor was that everyone was short of breath. Everyone had some kind of chest tightness and body aches, myalgias, most of the time fevering with a cough, sometimes productive, sometimes a non-productive cough, sometimes unrelentless nausea, and oftentimes diarrhea. These patients have gotten so weak and they needed people at their side. They're in isolation rooms with negative pressure. They're brought their food in on paper trays, and oftentimes the only people they see is the nursing staff, which consists of the nurse, the care tech, occupational or physical therapy, and the MDs, APNs, PAs, physician assistants. If their oxygen is dropping, we're all in the room immediately. How has this affected me? In the beginning, I was really panicky. Although at work I would be calm, I would come home and be pacing with a ton of energy and unable to wind down. As the weeks progressed, I became more empowered by my teammates. We all looked out for each other. We looked out for the patients, and we knew as we were titrating them up on their oxygen needs from 2 liters to 3 liters to 4 liters to 5 liters to 6 liters, maxing out 6 liters nasal cannula, switching to non-rebreather, and calling a rapid response to get these patients to the unit if they couldn't maintain 6 liters nasal cannula. That to us was that situation from 2 to 4 liters, 4 to 6 liters could happen within minutes. The patient could get up, who was doing fine, go to a bathroom and get hypoxic, suddenly chest tightness, unable to take a deep breath anymore because their pneumonia was progressing. Because of that, they would decompensate quickly, get weak and dizzy, lay down, and they couldn't come back from that. So that's when we blast them with the oxygen to try and help them out. Flipping them prone, which means flipping them to their stomach to see if that could help, which often it did. But if not, if they couldn't maintain their sats, off to the ICU they would go, and most likely off to a ventilator if they're fevering, coughing, filling up, and they can't maintain 6 liters. All this would be a rapid response, meaning fast action. Occasionally we've even coded a patient, but usually they get to the ICU first and then they've ended up on a vent. Now, there's the post-vent patient, a ventilated patient who's been on the vent for 2, 3, 4 weeks, coming back to us. They can't swallow. They can, but they've lost a large majority of that ability because of the ventilator being on and having paralytic agents that have had to be put in their system to maintain that vent. They come back with a whisper. Their speech is very soft, sometimes not at all. They've had speech therapy. They come back when they were walking before, not able to barely move in bed because they're so weak from being bedbound on a ventilator. So they have to learn again from physical therapy, baby steps of rolling, turning, sitting, eventually standing up to a chair. This takes weeks. Then also just their lung has been damaged, their kidneys damaged, in a lot of cases, people come back with hemodialysis ports when they were never on hemodialysis because their kidney gets attacked by the virus. The low oxygenation is hard on the body. The virus attacks the lungs, the kidneys. It can attack the brain with encephalopathy and confusion. These people have a long road on their recovery, but we are there to receive them and help them and nurture them. Everybody else is fearful of going in those rooms, but I'm not. I'm fearful knowing the knowledge that I can get this terrible disease myself and die, and I'm fearful that I would give this to my husband and daughter. But while I'm at work, wearing that nursing cap, I go in and I do my job and I make sure I clean in and I clean out extremely carefully, much to the efforts of someone with OCD, because that's how you survive in this business. You have to be OCD on your cleanliness. Every time you don your goggles or face shield, your N95, your gown, and your gloves, you need to do it the proper way, and you need to take it off the proper way. You need to do hand hygiene multiple times coming out of the room, again outside of the room, wiping off all surfaces outside of the room, wiping off your if you carry a phone, we carry a phone for communication that's connected to the call light. We don't touch that while we're in rooms. We sanitize them often while we're outside of the rooms. We have to social distance from other fellow nurses and coworkers while we're outside of the rooms for fear of contamination on our keyboards and our computers and our areas where we work. Oftentimes from wearing the N95 mask, it gets very difficult to breathe, and I've had, we get a mask for our 12-hour shift, and we take it off for lunch and some quick drinks of water at lunch, and we put it back on carefully, don and doff put it in a brown bag to keep it contained while it's off, while we have our lunch, and put it back on carefully and dispose of that brown bag. It's been completely a process of getting in your car, wiping everything off, coming through. For me, home from work, I take my scrubs off, although the hospital offers sets of scrubs. I don't choose to do that, but they do. Most employees do take a set of scrubs from the hospital and return them. I bring my own, but I come through the basement door and hot wash through that entrance. Everything goes off into the wash, and I immediately go into the shower every time. I scrub my face in regular Dial soap when normally I would use a foo-foo foaming face wash, but I want to make sure all that bacteria is off my face, behind my ears, behind my neck, inside my ears, chest, arms, everywhere, obviously. And I shampoo and wash my hair every time that I come home from the hospital. So every droplet that could be on me is completely washed away in the shower before I come up into my home for my family. As far as when I come home, I have not gone near my husband for 8 weeks now. We've watched TV and hung out in the same room, but I have not been within 6 feet of him without a mask on. Myself, for fear of being a hot zone and him getting possibly exposed from my job of whatever I bring home. And I have not been able to snuggle with my 13-year-old daughter without a mask on. And I've only done that about twice in the last 8 weeks with the mask on for fear of getting her sick. Now, with all that said, I find that it's the biggest thing I could possibly do for our community and for those patients that need help. They're all alone and they need someone to give them those treatments of whatever the doctor orders, and sometimes it's only Tylenol and Robitussin. But they need us, and to be able to be there and make a difference, that's been way bigger than anything I've ever been able to do for someone. And I feel good about that. I feel good about helping another human being out when they have nowhere else to turn to. The only hope they have is us. And they're scared, and they're in those rooms, and they're fevering, and they're aching, and they don't know if it's a mild case or a heavy-duty case most of the time. Like I said, they wouldn't be admitted to our unit without viral pneumonia diagnosed on their chest x-ray and a positive COVID-19 confirmation. So these patients are across the board all positive COVID that I work with. And if they do have a test that's pending a PUI, then that patient, if they are negative, they get discharged off our floor immediately and pended to another general medicine floor where they can get worked up for chest pain or whatever else is going on with them, congestive heart failure or whatever symptoms are causing their lungs to fill up or have symptoms of COVID. They'll get shipped off if they're COVID negative. So for me, it's been incredible to be able to seriously make a difference. And it's been really hard to sometimes watch people around the globe that have, proclaimed this is all something that's made up, or it's not that bad, or they compare it to the flu. Well, it doesn't compare to the flu at all. It's much more fierce and much more deadly. That makes me sad when I read those posts of those people who want to fight for their rights and come out and just not have any parameters for social distancing or washing their hands. They have to understand that there's people dying, and there's a lot of people coming through our doors in Chicago and all over the globe. But what does keep me going too is that I am not kidding you. Our community has been so strong. There's been some incredible people out there. I can't tell you how many different mask shipments I got from friends who sew and create cloth masks for me to donate to the patients who are headed home after they heal because they have no mask to wear and self-isolate in their own homes, or they donate those to the nurses as well. When we come home, we need soft cloth masks while we're in close distance with our own families. I've had people make the ear protectors that go behind the mask, cuts into our ears and creates these cuts or pressure wounds behind our ears. And I've had friends send me that to the house to protect these attachments that attach so our ears float freely in the face mask. I've had people ship me cases of wine, which are incredible. I mean, high quality. We, after a long day of work, they don't have to, God, but friends just to show support have done that. And food, cookies, kind wishes all over, social media support, or even just I've gotten cards in the mail that say, thank you. But with all that said, with all the masks I've gotten and everything we've distributed to the patients, I want to thank everyone else out there too. The fire department, the police department, the paramedics, the grocery store workers, the environmental services who have to clean in these rooms, and they've lost their coworkers who have gotten contaminated from cleaning these rooms and have gotten COVID-19 and passed away. I've had fellow coworkers become diagnosed with COVID-19 and take fever for about 2 weeks, and they're still not recovered a month later, and they finally do come back, but that's a mild case even. So everyone who is on those lines, the people that have to trade, take someone's debit card at the grocery store, swipe it and load these groceries up, they're at risk too, and they're putting their lives on the line. So it's not just nurses, but it's so many people out there working together to get stuff done while we're all home isolating. And I do realize that there's so many people who are lonely and suffer from self-isolation or social distancing during this time, and I know it's not easy for them either. So we all have to work together, I think, to get past this. And I've found for myself that I am so supported by my community that I feel that there's nothing I can't do. I go in those doors and I help those patients, and it's the greatest thing to be bigger than yourself and bigger than your, immediate family and your friends and relatives. It's the greatest thing to step up and help to make a difference. So I'm grateful that I had that opportunity to see that. So now we're heading into a phase where we're all going to reopen more and more. We're going to start doing surgeries, and elective surgeries are going to return, and we're all going to have to live side by side with COVID-19 for a while. All of us. It's not going away in a month or 2 months. It'll be here for probably a good year, if not more. So we all have to think, what can we do to get through this pandemic, to end it quicker? And that's following the guidelines. So we all have to be diligent, all of us, and really do all those steps that seem OCD-like, but we do have to wash our hands and distance and wear our mask and do everything our government asks of us so we can safely get past this and someday return to the norm. My heart breaks for the arts organizations, the dancers out there who can't be in theaters, the musicians who can't be in clubs, the bar owners who can't open their doors because you can't pack people in and their businesses are suffering. There's nothing like live theater, and we've all accommodated or found ways to express our art, which is amazing, but there's nothing like sitting in a live theater to watch that act with the lights out and a group of people who are all there, phones off, watching a ballet, watching an opera, watching a symphony, watching music in a club. I mean, the beauty of that moment, we all have to get back to that. And to do that, we have to all somehow be fierce within ourselves and all put one foot in front of the other and try to get past this and get back to what we all, I don't know, can creatively bring to the world while we're doing that. I don't mean to preach or anything, but I've just been so moved and honored to work among an incredible nursing team in Chicago and be surrounded by such an incredible community. Thank you for letting me put these words down.